So we're both in the process of creating solo shows right
Yes, we
now. I
are.
feel like very, very different solo shows. And I feel like you have an affinity for poetic devices, movement, things like that in your piece. And so I'm wondering, just sort of in terms of your training that led up to this point,
Mhm.
like, where would you say you draw the most influence from? Like, where does that come from?
Oh man, I just really enjoy like the spoken word aspect. A lot of people in the program say I like to do spoken word with what I'm working on, but just just the idea of having fun with the way the language is spoke in this contemporary time that we're in, and then like our days with Janine in class, and just how introduced I was to being able to move around in my body as an actor and not just with my face and my voice and things like that. Just really challenged me to like want to do more with my movement in the piece and things like that. So
Yeah, and what would you consider it? Because it seemed like there was like maybe a little disdain when the spoken word label gets slapped on.
mm,
That's why I kind of went for poetic devices,
yeah,
but I was just curious how you frame it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Just it really just doesn't. Maybe it just doesn't fit in the box right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't put me in a box.
don't fit in
Yeah.
the box. Yeah. What was the most difficult part about creating your piece? Whether that was in the early creating process or once you started rehearsing, what was the most difficult part about it?
Man, every creative process is difficult for different reasons, just as I would say it's rewarding for different reasons. And I would say with this process in particular, what made it really difficult was the fact that it was a solo process.
Mm.
Now, granted, we had improvisation session kind of workshop thing with Olwyn pretty early on as we were forming these solo shows. And then we have the head of acting here at OSU, Kevin. He kind of checks in, he monitors, he keeps us in line a little bit
Yeah.
in terms of our progress. But at the end of the day, it's you and you alone in that rehearsal space. And if you want people to trust your vision, it's really on you to fulfill that.
Yeah.
And so I talk about how the role shifts for me a lot. When I'm at home, I'm the playwright, I'm working on the page. When I'm in the space, I'm trying to primarily work as a performer while still allowing myself to write and improvise with my body. But I document a lot of my rehearsals.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is because you don't have that outside eye in a solo rehearsal to keep you in check, right? And so it's you and you alone. So you got to watch that tape back and you got to be really honest with yourself. And you got to
Yeah.
say, is that my vision?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, then you go back to the drawing board. You know what you got to come back to the next day. And so it's a lot of accountability. And some days that's easier than others.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's definitely been the trickiest part of this rehearsal process. Have you kind of found a similar experience or?
Yeah. I mean, so to your point, like just not treating anything too precious, because if it's like, okay, I created this and I really feel good about this, and then I do it and I record it and I go back and look at it and it's like it wasn't really as good as I thought, or that really wasn't what I was trying to do. Like being okay with like, okay, I can scratch this, I can put something else in that place and keep on going. Same thing with the text. Like I've deleted a whole lot of text, and I know Kevin mentioned this in one of our classes we had early on that like it's okay to throw out some text. Like don't treat anything too precious. And like from that class on, I was like, okay, I can take this out. I can take this out. I can rewrite this, and just been able to be okay with letting it go and changing and things like that. Because I mean, the way me and Owen talked about this show and talked about how the order should be is completely opposite of how it is now.
Yeah.
She wanted my character to pretty much experience his heartbreak at the end of the show, and then open up the show with him like feeling opening up about the mistakes he made. But I decided to flip it for different reasons and just not being precious to that original idea and being okay with changing it.
Yeah, I mean, walking on the way over here, just to speak to that, just the preciousness of the idea. Man, I don't know if you even remember this, but I was gonna do like multiplicity in the show. I was going to embody multiple characters, like that. That was very much integral to the original vision of the show, and it was something I pulled from that improvisation session, and it's completely gone now. and it's for the better. And, I find it's really rewarding to cut,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like kind of cool to know, like, it's trimming the fat a little bit. It's like you're making your piece lean. And I feel like just in terms of our trajectory as graduate actors, and actors doesn't even feel like fully encompassing label anymore. I think it's artist.
For sure.
We're learning good scenes. They bend, they don't break, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, how much bend can we get out of this? And the moment it breaks, it's gone.
I think to that point again, like just the word of us being artists now, because I remember speaking about this. I came into the program with just an actor mindset. Like I've always just done acting. I haven't really expanded myself within the writing aspect, directing aspect, creating aspect. I mean, like since we've been in this program, that's what it's been. It's been a lot of creating. I mean, this program focuses on the creation of new works, and I just feel like I can't really just call myself just an actor anymore. I'm like it's literally artists now, because we're writing, we're directing, we're creating, we're designing our own lights and sound, and it's just creating art all around. It's not just acting anymore.
100%. And I think the different ways we're having to approach this discipline, right? We just did a project, where it was just text and body tools, right?
Yeah.
And it got you totally out of the performative mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the text wasn't supposed to be dramatic, but because of how activated it was, it felt like it was dramatic and performative, at least to me.
Yeah, 100%.
And it was really effective.
Yeah.
It was really effective. Like if someone who wasn't part of our cohort was to come in and just watch these text performances, they would think like, oh, this is from some piece of dramatic text. But the text was just activated so much it felt dramatic. It was nice.
I will say I very much enjoy that in our solo rehearsal space, there's no windows. In our classrooms, there's windows. And I feel like people, they see some wild stuff sometimes.
Yeah. Timoshev?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because we're talking about training and sort of like what led up to this point of OSU and sort of expanding our horizons as artists. But like, who would you say are some of the individuals whose shoulders you stand on who kind of made Jalen up to this point?
First I start off with Von Belcher, man. That's my original guy. I took a acting class in 9th grade, and I remember I was in class and he told me like, hey, you have something, like you should come to a rehearsal after school. They were doing Raising in the Sun, and they already started rehearsal and things like that, but he just wanted me to come and just fill out the space and things like that. So I went, and I went into the rehearsal, and they were like just warming up before the show, and they were just playing music, and there was just so much personality and energy in the room, and I just got scared and I left and I went home. And the next day in class, he was like, hey, I thought you was going to come up to the rehearsal. I was like, yeah, I missed the bus or whatever, and I just lied because I was scared. And he's like, okay, well, I'll give you a ride today, because the way my school is, we have a 9th grade campus, a 10th grade campus, and 11th and 12th grade campus, because there's 6,000 students there. So he's like, yeah, I'll give you a ride to the senior high. So we went to the senior high, and I stayed that time, and it was one of my best decisions ever, because it really got me to be more open. And he was the first person to like, okay, I see something in you, and once you see it in yourself, you can be something for real.
Dude, isn't it like the craziest thing that it just takes one person to say, I see it in you, for you to start to believe it in yourself? Like, yeah. I've had the inverse of that experience now, because we're instructors as well, and like, you see some of these kids light up, like the moment you like really just let them know, like, hey, I see you and you have something, right? I see a seed there. You have to just grow and nurture and foster that if you want to.
And that goes a long way. I mean, I mentioned this in one of our meetings. I'm not going to say her name, but just had a student who just was really closed off and, just was being very patient with her. And then she did her monologue and did really good. And I made sure that I took the time after class to tell her about how good her work was and let her know, like, I saw that you worked hard and it was actually good work. And, like, lit up, like, completely lit up. I mean, like, every day in class now, it's such good energy and so much confidence within her. And it's like that simple compliment after class instilled that confidence that'll take her as far as she wants to go.
Yeah, and 100%. And that's amazing. Yeah. And I had a similar experience the other day, because I was talking to a student after class, and I was just kind of like, hey, you ever thought about auditioning for the shows here? And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, if you do your monologue you did in class the other day for auditions, I think it would be like a really good experience for you, Yeah. And she was like, I mean, that's why I took this class. And I was like, let's go.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, so talk about sort of this blend, this mix of like being a student, being an instructor, but sort of being your own practitioner and artist all at the same time. Like, do you find that all those experiences occurring simultaneously inform one another?
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to answer that question. I do have an answer, but I do want to hear your answer to the question you just asked me about who was that person for you.
Man, so I'll say first and foremost, I feel like I pitch ideas all the time. And people can't see the vision. They're like, this is too much. This is too out there. It's too complex, right? And I just recently like decided to sort of double down on that and take ownership of that and just say like, yeah, I exist in complex. I exist in weird. And my high school instructor, Tom Ming, I owe my creative essence to that dude.
Tom.
And man, we did it big. We did it weird. We did the most out there shows for a high school. And, you know, everything we did, it was like huge sets, almost cartoony, really slapsticky. All the other schools in the area were like, man, those kids at Fletcher just do what they want, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, that was our brand. And you know, so everywhere I went, it was like, I knew anything was possible on stage because of what I did on that stage, because of him. And I also know that not only can I do anything on stage, like I know I can do anything on stage, but I also know because of him that I can do anything.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be pursuing my master's right now if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
And then at my first college, I had my professor, Ken McCullough, man, and he really helped me grow. I had a lot of growing pains working with him. He really challenged me, but I owe just so much of my poise and professionalism to that man. And he's retired now, and we got to work on 5 shows together.
Yeah.
And those are 5 of the most amazing experiences of my life. He's one of my favorite directors I've ever worked with. You know, because when I left high school, I was like, man, I'm not going to get to do big, weird shows anymore.
Yeah.
And then the first show I'm doing at college, we're doing James and the Giant Peach, and I'm playing the centipede, and they build this giant peach on stage, and it was like the most out there production I've ever done. And to know that that professor also taught my high school professor for a brief amount of time, that I was sort of going up this coaching tree a little bit.
Okay.
Was a really special journey. And then I go to the University of Florida.
Right.
And I feel like there were 2 professors there, Tim Altmeyer and Malcolm Getz, that when nobody else was really seeing me, they saw me, right? And when I was at maybe my lowest point as a performer, they still encouraged me, like, no, you have something.
Yeah.
You have something. Go after it. Go get it. Whatever you want to do. And then I also just want to mention Charlie Mitchell, who was a professor of a stand-up comedy class, which really got me to embrace, I would say, my inner clown a little bit. And it also got me to hone in my writing chops a little bit, because now I feel like every time I go up on stage, I think I'm boxing with the audience a little bit.
Okay.
I'm like, I can't go for the knockout right away.
Yeah.
I got to throw the jabs. I got to just give them a 1, a 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can see it in the work that I make today. I think there's a very clear moment in my performances when I'm going for the knockout.
Yeah.
And it's not right away.
For sure.
Yeah. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's a lot of the individuals. Yeah.
Shout those people out. I mean, they're important because they matter. You know what I mean? 100%. And it ties into what you said earlier. Like, it just takes that one person to see you and believe in you, and that gives you the fuel you need to continue going. You know what I mean? Or believe in yourself. I do want to shout out one more person.
Absolutely.
Undergrad professor Corthell Clark. He was my advisor. He's also our technical director there. He wasn't my acting professor there. He's my technical director. Just had so many conversations in his office. Like, his office was always open, and stopped by there like so much and just talked to him, and like it really hit me later than it should have. But my junior year was the fall of 2020. So we just got back from COVID, and he just like really made me realize that if you want something, you have to go get it. Like, you have to go 100%. Get it. And like the world's not going to wait for you. They're not going to babysit you. And you have to also realize that there's 50 million other people who wants the same thing as you. So therefore, if you're not working hard, someone else is going to take that spot. And it was at that moment in that fall of 2020 where I was like, okay, I'm about to apply myself twice as hard, 3 times as hard from now on. And I remember he told me, like, yeah, you need to be able to apply to grad school and get into grad school with a full ride. And at the time, I'm like, yeah, what's the odds of me applying to grad school right after I graduate, getting in with a full ride? But he told me I could do it, and I auditioned, and I believed in myself, and I gave it my all, and it happened. And I just think about that moment all the time, and I'm glad that I had those conversations with him in his office about pushing myself and getting up and going get it, and not just sitting back and being lazy for it. So definitely shout out to him for that.
Yeah, 100%. And kind of going back to our conversation earlier about being instructors now and just having those conversations with students, like maybe it doesn't materialize into anything for like 90% of those kids, but if you get through to one, you know, that's all the difference in the world, you know?
We have to do these, can't think of what they're called, but we have to submit these advisor reports or whatever. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions, like, what are your goals for this semester with teaching and things like that? And just mentioned, like, my main goal is to get more students, more people to, you know more about the art, appreciate the art, and even inspire some students to want to be actors, you know what I mean? And not about to just try to inspire anybody, but for the students who I see, like, okay, you actually have something, like, genuinely letting you know, like, hey, you have something here, and, like, you can really do something if you really want to do something with it. And, like, it's crazy to think, like, we're literally on the other side now. Like, now we're teaching these students, and now we're instilling, positivity into these students. And for me, I graduated undergrad in 22, so it's a quick turnaround. I graduated in 22, and I was teaching in 22, college student. So the flip was crazy, but just how much of an impact that we can have as professors, I try to take advantage of that and just be real. Just be real. Like, why not help our students to believe in themselves? Because someone did that for me. Someone did that for you. So why not?
100%. And I think another part of that too is it's that idea of trying to be the person that you maybe needed when you were younger, right? To kind of, because we are younger, right? Yeah. So we can kind of connect with the students in a way that, like, we're both young-ish, mm-hmm. Whereas, like, maybe your professor's like 45 years old, mm-hmm. and he may not relate to you as much, mm-hmm. right? There is a little bit of a connectivity there, and I just know that there were points along the journey where I had those influential professors, right? Mm-hmm. But I also had those people I went to and kind of sought mentorship from, mm-hmm. and they just kind of shut me down for one reason or another. I'll never forget in undergrad, one of the MFAs calling me a clown. Mm. And I was like, you know what? I am. Mm. I am a clown. But this clown's about to have the same degree as you.
Yeah. Yeah. You never told me that story.
No, yeah, I'll tell you more about it sometime. Yeah. So obviously everybody listening doesn't really know much about our solo shows. Mm. So tell me not only the title of the show, but mm-hmm. tell me a little bit about the solo show as much as you feel like sharing.
The title of the show is Heartmatic, mm-hmm. And I combined the word dramatic and heartbreak together. It was called Broken Hearts Anonymous in the beginning, but just tying into what we talked about earlier, just not being so precious to certain things. And mm-hmm. I remember Kevin gave us the opportunity to change our title or submit a final title, and I was like, do I want to actually run with this? And I was like, I like Heartmatic. Mm-hmm. I like Heartmatic, and roll with it, because it encapsulates what's going on. It's centered around heartbreak in all different forms, but it's very much dramatized, very dramatic. But yeah, what can I share? Yeah, it's a piece, and it's kind of fictional because this isn't a true story that happened to me personally, but there are a lot of personal elements implemented into the story. And it's a character who goes on a journey that he needs to go on. And I think what I want the audience to take away from this, and also this kind of ties into one of the questions, so you can answer this as well. I want the audience to be able to take away some form of accountability for those who have made those mistakes, and also healing and peace for those who are heartbroken for whatever case it may be. So,
yeah. Can I ask a quick follow up?
Yeah.
Just because I think this is such an interesting part, because everybody's creative process is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of did some undercover research a little bit
I
for
did.
this piece. Can
I
you
did.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was great. I just know that like there are stories in there that this character tells from his point of view, but I couldn't gather all that information personally from me. So I went out and I talked to a lot of my girlfriends, my guy friends, and just talked to them about like, hey, like, have you ever been heartbroken? Have you ever broken someone's heart? You have? Tell me about that. And just really documented those things and heard those stories, and like it was great. And then lastly, I did research to see whether there are actually any Heartbroken Anonymous meetings in real life, and they are. There's a woman who does them in California, and of course I'm not in California because we're in Columbus, but they do them over Zoom as well. So I attended one over Zoom, and that was an experience right there. It was me and 5 other people and a host, and they gave us about 20 minutes to speak, which is crazy. We have 20 minutes to speak in our piece about your story and what's going on. And I think I was like 4th to go, but just the first story was just so heavy and so real and so authentic. And just hearing the truth to those stories, I was just like, I need to have truth to these stories, you know what I mean? And I was kind of trying to circle around with this character in this show, choosing one particular story and hone around that, or not directly aiming at one story, but just in a way just talking about multiple stories at once. And that's the route I took, because I think it leaves it more open for the audience to relate in different ways versus like if it was directly a story about someone who got cheated on. Like that excludes other people who's been heartbroken for other reasons. So the fact that it's open, it's like, okay, I can relate in this way, this way, this way now. But yeah, just doing that research of like documenting these real stories makes the piece real. It makes it authentic.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you talked about sort of the accessibility of the heartbreak, because there's one line in your script, if you don't mind talking about this, that was sort of, I don't want to say contentious, but it was up for debate, which was like you talk about the different ways that heartbreak can exist. You want to talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a line and the character says, has anyone here experienced any heartbreak? And I mean, any type of heartbreak, whether it's you and your significant other separated, or a family member passed away, or even a pet. And like, of course I could elaborate it more, but those are just ways that you can experience that heartbreak. And it's like maybe someone in the audience member maybe never have been cheated on and have a good relationship life, but maybe their mother passed away from cancer, and like that is heartbreak. Or a best friend got in a car crash and died. That's heartbreak. And like that, leaving that possibility open keeps it available for more people in the audience to just, relate more. And that's what I want. I want the audience to be able to relate to the story. You want to talk about yours in that way?
Yeah. So my piece is called The Phil Mitchell Radio Hour. That's been the title from day one. It's about this evangelical radio host, Phil Mitchell. It was very important to me that from a time perspective, this piece sort of existed somewhere, but nowhere at the same time. Like it's not anywhere specific. And I think that's because of the integral event, but he's sort of giving his sermon over the airwaves in front of a live studio audience on divine pruning, which is sort of when God puts you through a test, right? A test or a trial in your life. And he starts getting these phone calls in, right? Because he takes phone calls live on air to sort of help people in real time. And one by one, he's just getting inklings that there's something kind of eerie, something bigger going on. And so it sort of leads to questions of like faith and accountability and this dichotomy of the practice of religion versus the business of religion. And I hope it leaves viewers in a state of reflection about themselves and maybe the mask or characters or facades they put on in their everyday life, not only in religion, but like anywhere else. I'll never forget, I was working a job one time, right? And it's a bartending gig, and one of my coworkers, really mellow guy, great guy, he just asked me one day, he's just like, so acting, what is that? And I was like, very loaded question, but I was like, okay, I got you. I said, right now I'm talking to you. you exist right now in a certain way.
Right.
And I was like, when you go get in your car after a long shift, something changes when you're by yourself. And that's still you.
Mm-hmm.
You've just changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've dropped something.
Mm.
And maybe that's a truer version of yourself, or maybe that's just a different version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, when you walk in these stores, you put on something,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I was like, that's really all acting is,
Mm-hmm.
in a really simplified sense.
Yeah.
And so I think the show sort of explores that idea on a greater scale.
Yeah.
Just hope it's an experience for audiences. I really, sometimes I get flack for this, but I really care about the audience experience and that they walk out of one of my shows or one of my performances feeling different.
What all of our goals should be as artists is to engage the community in a way to think about things, to feel something. And that's really what acting is. You know, acting is a reflection of life. It's like we tell these stories and situations going on in your piece is probably real somewhere. I mean, not the actual event that happens, but, you know, just the personality aspects and, like, the mask and things like that. And same thing with mine. Like, these are real stories, and, like, just making people more aware of these things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important. Can I ask you 2 questions about your piece?
Yeah, absolutely.
One, Phil Mitchell. How did you come about that name?
You know, I just always have a thing with names where they just sort of come to me in like first and last name form. And I was just sort of like, you know, I was researching a lot of televangelist, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's really sort of, as far as like Phil existing as some sort of composite character, like those were the sorts of people I was looking into. So I was just like listening to the way names would like ring.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Phil just kind of came up.
It flows for sure.
Yeah.
Phil Mitchell flows.
Yeah.
And then the second question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just looking at all 8 pieces that are in the MFA Solo Festival, I feel like 7 of the pieces have some type of personal attachment to the artist. And I feel like yours is the only one that is maybe not true to Noah necessarily, or could be fictional.
Right.
And which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
But if Noah was to tell a story that is personal to Noah's story, if you could devise a piece right now in the next, 20 seconds, what would it be about? What would that story look like?
Yeah. So I would say I kind of have this piece in development in a weird way, but I'm trying to make it. It was something I wrote when I was a teenager, right?
Mm.
And my playwriting skills weren't honed in yet.
Yeah.
And I also just emotionally wasn't in a mature enough place to, I think, tackle some of the subjects that I was trying to talk about, right? But it's this piece, I don't even want to call it my magnum opus, because it's like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what that is? But it's a piece called The Glass Box.
Okay.
All right? And so the idea of the glass box is sometimes in life, I feel like, but because of depression and mounting circumstances in your life, you are stuck. It feels like you're stuck on the inside of a glass box, looking out on the rest of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a question, did you put those walls up, or did other people put those walls up, or did you put those walls up together? And so I was like working on constructing this piece where kind of through a series of mounting circumstances, the performer is actually encapsulated in real time into a glass box, right? And then it's like, well, how do you get out of that?
Mm-hmm.
And so the show is really about the search of breaking out of the glass box. And the way I'm sort of retooling it, restructuring it, is that it can be a performance for anybody. And I actually think that the performer will start inside a fully encapsulated box, and that there will be an inquiry question when audiences walk into the space.
Yeah.
And it is, what walls have you put up in your life and why? Right? And then audiences can go right on the walls of the box.
Mm.
And so with each show, the audience gets to take ownership of it, right? They get to see themselves in that box without having to actually put themselves there.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a really powerful cathartic tool for healing.
Yeah.
So if I were to make a personal show, and I'm kind of like working on that in the background, that would be it. But I sort of gravitate away from that stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially in a solo show format, because absolutely no disrespect or shade to what anybody's doing, because like I totally see a piece of everybody
For sure.
in their work,
Yeah, I can agree.
and it's a lot to share that, right?
It is.
And I think my connotation of solo shows, and I've spoken on this in the past, is sometimes it is somebody working something out in front of you,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's tough to watch somebody work something out in front of you,
Yeah.
right? But we were previewing some pieces the other day, and we saw this one that was like really fleshed out. It was really wonderful, and I felt like I was watching a show where somebody had already done the work themselves, and they were just sharing that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's really lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's why I gravitate maybe away from the personal stuff a little bit, just because I have that connotation. But at the same time, like I've written another play. You're obviously very familiar with it. It's called Honey. It's a piece of horror theater, and it's not really a common thing. And people are like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, again, it's like people can't see the vision. And it's that thing of, all right, well, if you're not ready for Honey yet, I give you the Phil Mitchell radio hour.
Yeah.
You know, and,
Yeah.
and you're gonna see the baby.
That's kind of what I was thinking about during my pieces. Like, do I want to make it completely personal to me or not? And I feel like mine kind of falls in the middle, because like it has aspects of me in it, but it's not 100% me. And it can be hard as an audience member to sit there and watch someone work something out, because it's like you know, I don't really want to, like, then you start feeling bad, you know what I mean, and things like that, especially for the artist who has to do that 3 weeks straight or however long that show runs.
It sometimes feels dangerous too. If the artist doesn't feel like they are protecting or taking care of themselves, then you feel, I think, accountable as an audience member. Yeah.
Obligated.
Yeah. So can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
I would totally agree that this show sort of exists as a blend between, you know, you and something else, right? It's you and other people's experience, really, which is a really lovely blend. And so do you feel like you're risking something with this show, or like what do you feel that you need to risk anything with this show?
I feel like some people who doesn't really know the insight on the process would think like, oh, this is all Jalen's experience. This is Jalen just doing a different version or putting a character to it. And I think that's what I risk. People just like, oh, he is this bad guy who did this and that, and they won't really know that isn't really the case. But sure, if that's what you think, sure.
You're risking perception.
Yeah. Regardless, I think the message and that the growth that the character goes through at the end of the day will hopefully have the audience feeling like, okay, this is a good guy. I remember I was talking to Angelina in the office, and we were looking through Acting 1, Robert Cohen's book, and there was a certain part in there, I probably won't quote it directly correct, but it was like a good artist can make the audience, a good artist can be Hitler and Jesus all in the same play.
It's
something
pretty
like
close
that.
to that. Yeah.
And like still love you and like get the message and things like that. So like once I heard that, this was like probably a month and a half ago, I was like, okay, I kind of want the audience to like kind of be mad at this guy for like being so hypocritical. But then at the end of the day, see the growth that he has, and like, okay, I side with him because he is taking accountability for his own mistakes, and he wants to grow, and he is growing, and he has grown in these 20 minutes.
That's what good theater does. It takes you on a journey, right? How you feel when you meet a character may not feel the same way at the end of the show when you're leaving that character. Like, I think I would say I have a very strong response I'm looking to elicit from my character early on. I think people are going to develop very strong opinions right away. And I think anytime you bring religion in, like, that is likely the case.
Can you throw one opinion out there that a random audience member might feel in the beginning?
This dude's a snake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think some people might feel that way.
Like something's up.
Yeah. And I think part of that is from a physical complexion standpoint, but then there's also that tone of voice, right?
Yeah.
I'm very much acting from not myself in this piece. Yeah, and again, in this character is sort of composite. It's an idea of something. Depending on where you grew up regionally, we're both from the South, so I don't feel that this character is a stretch, right, at all. But for some people that have kind of grown up up north in the Midwest, I think it might be a little out there for them.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like I'm attacked. I'm not out here to attack religion or all preachers out there at all. I'm talking about a very specific type of person.
You talked about the goal and things like that.
100%.
So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If we had an unlimited amount of time, funds, whatever space, a bigger space, whatever, how would the show be different?
Man, so I don't want to reveal too much, just because I'm in the process of talking with somebody about possibly
developing it more.
Yeah, developing more beyond here and what that's going to look like. But again, I'm very big on the audience experience, and I would like to make this a more expansive auditory experience. That's sort of where I'll leave it at there, where the audience has more of a role in the story. And that doesn't mean audience participation, right? That just means creating more of an experience for the audience. And I think through the means that I want to do it, it actually makes the show a little bit more accessible.
Yeah.
But I think truly if I had unlimited funds, right? Love theater people. Theater people are great.
Right.
Theater people come see our shows, right?
Yes.
But I'm trying to reach beyond that.
For sure.
I'm trying to reach beyond that. And so, man, if I could just get the show out there to other people, man, even if it's just like, I got 20 free seats every night.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go find these people so that they can come on a journey with me and experience theater, or maybe an art form that they haven't grown to appreciate. I think that would be the biggest thing. And, of course, if you're in a big venue with more technical capabilities, obviously I feel like I'm maxing out the space right now a bit. Yeah. But I would just continue to evolve that and go bigger and things like that.
I like that.
What about you?
I thought about this the other day. If I could also develop it beyond just being a solo show, I would like to introduce some more characters into the show. But I think one character that would play a really important role would be, I don't know what you would call it, but the person who runs the actual anonymous meeting.
Yeah.
I think that character would be
facilitator, maybe.
I think that character would be a really strong character, because I think that character will play the part in the changing, in the development of the main character, Hart. I would do that. Probably have like a couple of other members in the audience, or a couple in the audience, but in the play as well. The audience is the play. But I think it'd be interesting to have maybe the character Hart's one of his exes there, and that add like a complete twist to it as well. I think that'd be fun.
We talked about mentorship early on.
Yeah,
we talked about our journey as artists a little bit, and we talked like very specifically about these solo shows, right? This didn't happen overnight, right? And obviously these solo shows are a part of our curriculum here, and it's a very special opportunity. But like there is somebody younger who might be an undergrad, they might be in high school, maybe they're watching this, and like, what do you have to say to them just about journey and process?
Trust it. Trust it. I mean, I know that's very general, but it's really true.
Mm-hmm.
I know Raymond said some things the other day, and like one of the other things I got from that meeting was just trust the process. Trust your process. Trust your work. Just know like it's good for you, because you said this earlier. Like whenever you have this vision and you feel like sometimes people don't really see it and things like that, don't like throw it out because nobody sees it, or this one person or this group or this company didn't see it and didn't believe it. Don't get rid of it. Just continue to develop it, or continue to trust in yourself and that work, and believe that you can develop what you want to work on. You know what I mean? And that was kind of like the last question I have for you as well. Just what would you tell someone, I was going to say more specifically, in a solo process? Like what advice would you give?
Yeah, there's so much heartless art out there. So as long as your heart's in it, just trust that, right? And again, just sort of like speaking to the point of journey and things like that, like you're going to hit a wall in a solo show process or in any sort of creation process where you're like, this is the greatest thing in the world. And the next day you come in, you're like, this is garbage.
Yeah.
And I think you got to find those methods beyond rehearsal, beyond the creative process, to ground yourself and say, these are waves. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they come down, and the truth somewhere is always in the middle, right? Yeah, the truth is always in the middle.
Yeah.
And if it resonates with you, share it. Share it.
Yeah.
Again, it's that thing of vision, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to see your vision, and that's okay. But as long as you're committed to fulfilling your vision,
yeah,
it just takes one person.
And being confident in your vision, in your work. Because like if you don't have that confidence, it's going to show.
100%.
It's going to show.
100%.
And that's with everything. I mean, even in our classes and our little performances we do, our scenes, like I just always remain confident in what I'm doing, because if not, it's going to show and it's going to affect you. And a lot of times it's a mindset thing. Because if you go into it like, oh, maybe the audience might not really like it, or maybe they might not really like how I perform, you're already pulling yourself back.
Yep.
But if you go in there with the mindset of like, okay, like I like what I did, I have a good message, I have a good show, let me perform it that way, like you're going to feel good. So just be confident.
Yeah, I mean, I walk in every time, I'm like, this is a Noah Bennett experience. Some people are going to like it, some people are going to hate it, but this is my jam.
And it's for you.
Yep.
It's for you. And it's for those who want to receive it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So wrapping up here, we got to give people the plug, the details.
Yes.
So the Solo Show Festival, Odyssey of the Soul. When do we go up?
We go up, but is it No. It's the last week of March.
28th.
28th, exactly.
Yeah, March 28th to April 12th.
Yes.
Tickets available through the OSU box office.
Yes.
Yeah. And any final things you need to tell people?
We are on B night as well.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple nights, A and B night, but our show is combined on B night. So check out both nights, though, honestly.
Heartmatic, Phil Mitchell Radio Hour.